Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another episode of SOS Live. We had some technical difficulties last week, so I just want to make sure that I actually am hitting record before I start this episode because, oh my goodness, this, I think, when I recorded it yesterday, was 1000% my favorite episode to date. Yeah, hands down, it was so good. I'm excited to have the conversation again. Okay, I'm live on YouTube, so let me make sure that I'm live on LinkedIn. It was such a good conversation because I feel like so many founders, literally so many of us are falling into this at times. And a lot of it, it just comes from a bit of just running a business can be kind of scary. So this one, I think this episode is really, really good. If you are here from last week, I hope you are just as excited for this week because let me tell you, this is good. Okay, so I'm live on all the platforms. And so I'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to another episode of SOS Live Systems, Scaling, and Operations, where we fix what's running your business before it runs you. I am Jasmine Wooton. I am a fractional COO and the founder of Win. We help service-based founders turn chaos into clarity, turn burnout into bandwidth, and turn vision into scale. So it's so interesting because I even saw somebody post about this on Threads this morning. They said, "Oh my gosh, I think I'm being too available. I think I'm everywhere." And yeah, a lot of times your business starts to feel icky and, not so great, not because you don't care, but actually because you care about everything a little bit too much. Okay, so but hear me out. I know this is your business is your baby, right? But we've been talking about the three founder archetypes that I'm starting to find these patterns of even in my most successful clients, y'all. This is not shade. This is habits that I am finding in founders, and I've grouped them into three. So a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the artisan who has very, 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 very high standards, which is amazing. That is why people start coming to you. And then all of a sudden, when you start to build a team, sometimes this can manifest itself into micromanagement or nothing is ever done enough and all of these things, right? It gets a little perfection heavy. Then we talked about the firefighter who is consistently putting out fires, consistent, consistent, consistent. And that's great. Those fast response times, that's what makes people want to call you instead of somebody else. Why would I wait a week when I can get an answer in 24 hours? Well, it's because you have to have some level of sanity. And if you don't, you have goals in your business, and if you can't make it to those goals because you've been spending so much time putting out fires and now you're just burnt out yourself, then we can't get there. This one that I want to talk about today is how we have this caregiver, right? That's what this one is called, right? You're caring too much about every single thing. And this person, this archetype, this founder, they mean very well, right? We over deliver, we personalize, we do just the extra thing because it feels like good service, right? And we want to be the founder that is known for our good service. But the problem is every small tweak comes with a new process. Every time there's an exception to the rule, it requires a new workflow. And before you know it, you're managing 12 different versions of the same offer, right? So when you can only imagine, right, if you were a cobbler, right, somebody who makes shoes, it would be a lot easier for you to make the same type of shoe over and over and over and over and over. But if one person wants 2 stripes and one person wants 7 stripes and all of this stuff, you see it's going to it that change and even just the amount of stripes going on a shoe is going to take you time. Now imagine what it's doing to your business, right? And you're somebody who delivers in a week or a month or 2 weeks or whatever the case may be. All of those changes are costing you time. Like I really used to think, and this is just like me on a personal note, I used to have a belief that caring for my clients meant that I had to do more. But actually what I have understood is that loving my clients and being able to deliver a great experience for my clients is really about being consistent and being consistent well, right? Without collapse behind the scenes because I'm personal, all of that stuff. It doesn't, unless you are charging for that personalization, then it can really, really, really cause burnout. So let's talk about why your generosity has become your biggest bottleneck, right? So we have this belief, cool, if I take care of my clients, the business is going to take care of itself. But I want us to shift our perspective. Over serving one client steals from every other client. If you are over serving one client, your capacity is only so much, right? Capacity, it's a thing, right? Especially if you are a founder who, things are just starting to get going, right? You're starting to hit those consistent 10K months. If you are going to be able to scale past that, every time you overserve one client, all of your other clients pay, right? Every time you over customize, you're breaking your consistency. Over delivery actually too is like, sometimes it hides the cracks in your systems, but it doesn't actually fix them, right? You tell yourself, oh, I'm just going to hire help, right? Cool. This is great. If you've gotten to this point where you're like, I need to hire help. Yes. Yes. Okay. This is where we need to get as shifting from an operator to a CEO. Yes, you do need to hire help. But if you are in the habit of over delivering, over customizing, and over serving particular clients, even when you hire that team, they're going to be confused because nothing runs the same way twice, right? Once you can get to that repeatable system, then you can drop somebody in and be like, it's always 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. When you start customizing, it's like 1, 2, 7, 1, 5, 8, 1, 9, 3. And your team is like, okay, what do we do? And you're going to be paying them probably hourly, right? And think about how many hours they're spending trying to figure out what's going on. Is it 1, 2, or is it 1, 5, or is it 1, 8? And then after that, is it 8, 9? Right? What is it? Right? And so you're actually wasting you're wasting money paying them to be confused when you get into this over delivery, right? And so if you have ever felt like, oh my gosh, my team never knows what to do, step back, founder, accountability lens on, am I being clear in my process? Or are there some one-offs that end up being a lot of one-offs that are confusing my team? Okay. Because I think sometimes too, there's like this fear in the caregiver archetype that if you build systems that there won't be as much care put into the business. But systems actually protect the care, right? Because nobody cares about your business like you, which is totally fine, but that doesn't mean that people can't deliver for you. But when you have systems and clarity in that, the clarity allows other people to understand, your teammates, to understand what care looks like and how to deliver care at your standard. Okay, so we talk about, this. We talk about the three, right? The artisan, the firefighter, the caregiver. But the caregiver oftentimes does not live alone, right? A lot of times the firefighter does not live alone. The artisan does not live alone. They live inside this burned out operator, right? And so when you have this combination of the standards of an artisan, the pace of a firefighter, and the people pleasing of a caregiver, you're trying to do everything right for every single person all at once. You're finding yourself checking tasks that somebody else, you've already paid somebody else to do, but you're like, oh, but if I don't touch it, it's not going to be done well, and I have to respond, and I have to over deliver, right? You're fixing mistakes at 11 p.m. and you're telling yourself, oh, this is what a leader does. This is what a leader does, right? And really what you're getting is mental fatigue. You're getting emotional resentment and operational chaos at the beginning of the day, not even at the end of the day, right? And so you become the bottleneck in your business, not because you are bad at business, right? It's because your business only runs when you are superhuman, right? If your business is depending on you being superhuman, don't catch a cold. If your business is depending on you being superhuman, don't break a nail. You know what I mean? Because that's when it feels like, okay, I have this thing going, and then as soon as I stop, the whole business stops, right? And that's not a good feeling. But a lot of that is built on the fact that we are operating at superhuman capabilities with no boundaries and no structure and no clarity. And if that's the only way that we're going to get what we need, yeah, that's a dangerous game to play. It's a dangerous game to play, right? So the obvious next question is, how do we break this loop, right? How do we break this loop without breaking your reputation for excellence, right? I know that's what y'all thinking. I know that's what y'all thinking, because last week when I did end up going live on TikTok, and when I got to this part where I'm like, if your business requires you to be superhuman, it's a dangerous game to play, because as soon as you stop, the whole thing is going to stop. Everybody's like, well, but if I stop, it's going to stop. So what do I do? So how do we break this loop without breaking your reputation for excellence? All right, cool. I got 3 steps for you. Number 1, simplify the promise. Simplify the promise. Okay. This is why when people ask me, like, what do you do? I specifically focus on client onboarding, because operations is so vast, right? If I am to say I do all operations, I absolutely can. It's in my wheelhouse, right? But when you simplify the promise, you have one promise, which means you have one process, right? If you can't deliver the same thing twice, if you cannot deliver the same exact thing twice, then you cannot scale. You cannot scale, because what scaling means is being able to replicate the process multiple times without also scaling the effort, right? And so even sometimes, think about it like fast food, right? The number one at McDonald's is always the number one at McDonald's. It's the same thing every single time, right? There's not 1 million ingredients on that Big Mac. It's the same, boom, boom, boom. It's the same process over and over and over and over and over. And although the Big Mac don't look like the pictures, the Big Mac in the state that you're in is going to look like the Big Mac in the state that I'm in, right? And that's on one promise, one process. That is the only way that, even though you and I live miles apart, whether that's single digit miles or triple digit miles or quadruple, 4-digit miles, we have that same experience. Let me not say 4-digit miles, because actually I go to McDonald's in every country I go to, and the other countries be a little bit better. So if you're in the United States, you know that the California Big Mac and the Washington D.C. Big Mac are the exact same, because one promise, one process. And that doesn't mean that they don't have other things on the menu, but guess what? When we go to something else on the menu, one promise, one process, right? And so this is how you start to simplify and clarify your offers, because each offer needs to have its own workflow, right? How do we achieve this particular outcome? Is through this one workflow. Okay. If you cannot deliver it the same exact way twice, you cannot scale it once. And please, honestly, don't try, because it's literally going to get to a point where it just feels like, oh my gosh, in order to run a business, I have to work 80 hours. If you have the same exact process over and over, right, then you can do the same thing. It's like if I'm making the same exact parfait. I love a fruit and yogurt parfait. I love a fruit and yogurt parfait. I make it the same exact way every single time. And when my friends come over and they're having a parfait with me, I make everybody's the same exact way every single time. That way I can make 3 at a time instead of just 1. And it doesn't take me very much more time. It's the same thing with your business. Okay. If you can't deliver it the same way twice, you cannot scale it once. All right. That's step 1. Step 2, systemize care. Okay. I know that I hear this all the time. And honestly, like I Obviously, we have all gotten so many messages that are so like so AI coded that you don't even want to respond, bro. Like, you get what I'm saying? But there is a way to systemize care, right? To automate the empathy. Okay. Your onboarding messages, your client milestones, your feedback surveys, right? You talk the same every time, right? And if you think that you don't, ask 10 people around you, if I was a cartoon character, what would I say every morning? What would I say before I eat? What would be my tagline? If I was a cartoon, what would be my tagline? You're going to hear a lot of repeats, right? And so, although there are automated messages that I send to some of my clients, right? On week 1, I have the same energy, right? Hey, we're about to get started. I'm so excited to work with you. I work with people that I like. So yeah, that's a fact every single time, right? But I can automate that empathy so that people still feel like they're hearing from me, and they are, but without me having to type it every single time, right? But that care must be embedded into your business, because also another thing that I find when people don't have this kind of stuff set up is you're so focused on delivery, right? And it's maybe taking you 2-3 weeks to deliver, which is totally fine, right? That is a normal time for delivery for a lot of the clients that I work with, right? Cool. But your client hasn't heard from you in 3 weeks. They like, you're like, yeah, it takes me 3 weeks to build a website. And they're like, 3 weeks? I don't know. Did they run off with my money? Which has probably happened to them before, right? They're working with somebody, they might come in a little bit jaded. They have these experiences before you, right? But what is going to set your business apart is being able to automate your care, is being able to have a smooth client onboarding, and then also some level of nurture so that they know, hey, I didn't just run off with your money. Hey, here's the update. Hey, here's where we're at. Hey, we don't need to meet this week, but here's where we're at. If you do have questions, submit them here, right? Even just saying that, please ask me any questions that you have. After giving an update, please ask me any questions that you have. They're like, oh, okay, cool. It is open. This person didn't just ghost me, right? Cool. So you can systemize that care. Care shouldn't live in your calendar. It should live in your systems. In your systems, right? So that even when you onboard a team, they know, like, dang, we be reaching out to these people all the time. We giving so many updates. Yes, we do. That is what we do here. Yep. I'm happy that you caught that. Right. And so those things are built into your systems. Okay. Step three. And maybe I'm a little bit biased because this is just how my brain works, but I need you to have the COO brain as well. You're moving from operator in your business to CEO, and there's a lot of steps that go into that, but one of them steps needs to be COO, right? So take a page out of my brain, and I want you to think infrastructure first, emotion second. I know. I know. I know. I know. We want to be there for our clients. We want to make things as easy as possible for them. We want them to enjoy our work. We want them to refer us. That's great. Infrastructure first, right? Because the infrastructure that you build is actually what is going to allow you to deliver that feeling, right? Because you're not just delivering your product, right? You're delivering that feeling, you're delivering that relief. And so when you have this infrastructure, right, a lot of like the artisan and the firefighter and the caregiver, all of this is like stem from, we want our clients to win, right? And so there's nothing to feel ashamed about with any of these archetypes, because at any given point, depending on what's going on, depending on the stressor, I have been all three, right? I've also been all three at the same time, the burned out operator, right? And so when you're noticing these habits, these are just cues for you to be like, okay, cool. Firefighters, what I'm noticing, they have similar bottlenecks in their business. Caregivers, what I'm noticing, have very similar bottlenecks in their business. Artisans, what I'm noticing, they have very similar bottlenecks in their business, right? And those three, they end up having different bottlenecks, but these habits that we have and these tendencies that we have, they end up causing certain bottlenecks. And so the infrastructure that you have will allow you to care for your clients deeper, actually, than you running around and trying to do everything yourself. Okay, so take a page out of my COO brain, and just know when you when you have that mindset, peace is not like this far off thing, right? It becomes a deliverable, right? This is how we do. Okay. So we have, just to recap, step one, simplify the promise. Simplify the promise. Okay. There's only one way. This is not, I know we all say, oh, there's multiple ways to skin a cat. Not in your offers, though. Not in yours. This is the one. This is what we offer. If you want something different, then order number two. That's something different and it has one process. Okay. The second thing is systemize your care. Yes. Our clients need to hear from us. They need to know that we care. They need to know that we're here. They need those updates, all of those things, but all of those updates don't need to come from your fingers every single day. Right? I have 4 more calls after this. You think I have time to send a completely separate thought of email after every single one? No, but because I have one promise and one process, I can predict, right, what the follow-up needs to be. And so it's already queued. I can automate that because I've done it enough times to know these are the next steps. I know one promise, one process, boom, this is the process. So if you're ready to go to the next step in the process, boom, this is the follow-up email that matches that. Right? That's just an example. And then take a page out of my COO brain. Infrastructure first, emotion second. Infrastructure first. However you want people to feel, you have to build the infrastructure that matches it so that you can actually achieve that goal. But sometimes we just want to achieve this goal. And so the way that we do it is by running around like a chicken with his head cut off. And then we can't wait till the weekend. But then you still have to work on the weekend because you've been over customizing. And so now all of those extra things, now you have to do it on the weekend. Right. And so, okay. So recapping the 3 as well, the artisan archetype, right? When we are a founder and we are being heavily an artisan, we end up over controlling. Right? We end up over controlling. I know we want to have our hands on everything. My business is my baby. It looks this good because I built it this way. And that over control is wanting, that care took us here, but that over control is going to stop us from getting there. Okay. The firefighter, they over hustle, right? You're hustling. Especially when you go from working your 9 to 5 and your business on the side and you get to the point where you're now in your business and you got to hustle. That's great until you're so burnt out that you couldn't serve another client if you wanted to. Then you have the caregiver. We're making sure that our client knows that we care. We are over delivering, right? Especially if you're somebody that looks like me and you've been taught your whole life that you have to work twice as hard. I'm telling you, y'all. Some of these messages we've been getting for so long, and now they're just falling into our business, right? Some of you, if you were the firefighter, maybe in your 9 to 5, they'd be like, you know who we need to call about this? We need to call Jasmine. Jasmine will know, right? I've been that in a lot of my 9 to 5s, the go-to person for problem solving, which is great. I love a good bonus. But when I carry that into my business, I'm exhausted, right? And so this caregiver that overgives, and we want to make sure, you got to work twice as hard. You got to over deliver, right? That overgiving, that customization, it gets confusing for our team and it's impossible to duplicate. And when you're all 3, you're trying to be all 3, you just end up booked, busy, and burned out. Okay. You don't need Now, let me be very, 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 very clear on this. You don't need less caring. You don't need to be less ambitious. That's not what I'm saying. You don't need to be less precise. That is not what I'm saying, because don't lose your precision, don't lose your ambition, and don't lose your care. But you need systems that protect those strengths from turning against you. So I created something. Okay. And I want y'all to try it out. This is my first time I've ever made a quiz like this. I mean, I used to be a teacher, so I make quizzes all the time, but this is the first time that I've made something like this for you all. And if you're watching this live, I would actually love for you to test it out for me and give me some feedback before I release it to the general public. But I made a quiz because I want you to be able to see which one of these habits you're falling into. And once you get your results, as a bonus, I'll also send you an ebook. Y'all, I took my time with this ebook, okay? I took my time, okay? You'll see a lot of like my voice in there. Good, yes, because I wrote it. And so I want you to look through, and what I did was I identified, based on the archetype, what are the common bottlenecks that these archetypes are facing, and then also what to do next. Because you know what, I hate hey, you have a problem but good luck though. It's not that, right? So if you're falling under this firefighter archetype, if you're falling under this artisan archetype, if you're falling under this caregiver archetype, I want you to be aware of the bottlenecks that come from these tendencies, and then also questions that you need to ask yourself and some next steps that you need to do to make sure that you're not scaling that, right? And so if you are on this live right now, please comment the word quiz. I'm going to DM it to you. As for everybody else, it'll go live in about a week once I get the feedback from the folks that are on the live. I love a little exclusive test. And honestly, if it sucks, please tell me that it sucks. That's data. And I need that data. So I would love for you, if you want to test it, please comment the word quiz and I'll send it to you via DM. If you're not watching this live, that's totally fine. I know a lot of you come back and watch this. Hey, thank you. And so I will release it to the public in a couple of weeks after I get the feedback. But if you are curious to know which one of these habits you are falling under, then please comment the word quiz. And just remember, systems are about peace. Systems are about peace of mind. And that is business needs. Like, there are so many business owners because there are so many problems to solve, right? And so chances are the world needs your business, right? But chances are also the people in your world need you. And so it's important to be able to deliver to the world, but also be able to have enough left in the tank to live a regular life, right? Your family misses you. They don't think that you're not going to succeed. They literally just miss you. Yeah. They just want you to show up and be fully present and not stressed and not working 80 hours a week to try to get this thing done, right? So in my absolutely biased opinion, systems. All right. That has been another episode of SOS Live. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, yeah. I also am, y'all know we go live on Thursdays. I have some guests coming up. So if you start to see some SOS Live special episodes on Tuesdays, it's because I want to introduce y'all to some people. And I want you to see how systems span across industries. And I want you to see all of the different ways that you can bring money into your business through the use of systems, right? And so we have some leadership coaches, some event coaches. So if you're somebody who has been thinking about, okay, well, I want to run events in my business and I'm not sure how that relates to systems, you do not want to miss that interview. That was a really good one. If you are growing in your leadership, I also have an interview with a leadership coach that's coming up. And yeah, honestly, I'm just getting people on the docket that I think would be very helpful because business is vast, right? I focus on operations. That is my lane. I stay in my zone of genius, but there are also people who are operations adjacent that I want you to hear from, because my goal is for your business to grow. My goal is for the world to experience your brilliance, just not at your expense. And so look out for those as well. Those will be airing on Tuesdays. And so, yeah, it's been another week of SOS Live. I love these guys. I love these. And for those of you who always DM me afterward and talk about like, hey, I saw the episode, please in the comments, tell me, what was your biggest takeaway? What did you learn? What was your aha moment with this week's live? So thank you all. See you again next week. Bye.